Welcome to this edition of Best of the Best, where we interview the world's leaders in healthcare, politics, sports, and business while sharing their secrets to success. Now here's your host, Dr. J. Murray Hawkins.
I'm really excited for you to meet my next guest, Dr. C.J. Mertz. By the age of 28, Dr. C.J. had already built his own waiting list practice, serving over 1,000 patient visits per week, and he devised the most powerful and complete practice strategy ever known. Through an outpouring of peer requests, Dr. C.J. founded the Waiting List Practice and Full Potential Leadership Training Program. Since 1984, he's traveled over 4 million miles, taught over 700 seminars, and trained with nearly 16,000 doctors, and personally visited over 3,600 practices all over the world. His award-winning Accelerate system has successfully built more practices serving greater than 400 patient visits per week than any other coaching program. He is a husband and a father, and I've known CJ for over 20 years, and I'm proud to call him my friend. And he is definitely the best of the best. Dr. CJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you, Jeff. Thank you for having me on and allowing me to share my story today. I'm hoping and praying that my message is going to fall on the ears of people that maybe are struggling or have struggled, but have a huge desire. They want to do something special, something meaningful in their lives. And I'm just grateful for you to have me on today to share it.
Yeah, well, the first thing is, Dr. CJ, I know you're known as Coach CJ like all over the world. So how did that actually come about?
You know, that story, that's a great question, comes from an injury, a very terrible injury that I had when I was 10 years old and was supposed to have a surgery. And my mom, it was amazing, Jeff, took me to a chiropractor. And even though I was told I would never play sports again, and there was all kinds of real challenges that I would wind up experiencing as a result of this injury, through tremendous work through this chiropractor, I was fully restored. I was fully regenerated to the point where I wound up actually not only taking on all sports. I lettered in football, basketball, baseball, tennis in college, went on a full ride. I should say high school, went on a full ride to play tennis in college, and was a tennis professional before going on to chiropractic college. And so I always have had this amazing debt, this amazing appreciation for this chiropractor and for chiropractic in my life. But I have to tell you that along the way, what happened were some serious trials and tribulations. And it was, at times I wondered, was I on the right path? And am I doing the right things? I wound up actually in college on this scholarship I was saying. And in my senior year, I wound up in organic chemistry. I'm in pre-med. I know that I want to get to chiropractic college. And one of my professors, for some reason, he just did not like athletes. And I think the idea of even having an athlete in organic chemistry was something he just didn't think fit. And that happened to be in the spring, where we traveled almost every weekend to tournaments all over the country. And even though I had scored highest in the class in our national examinations, I had over 92% on the midterm. He had a quiz every Friday, Jeff. And I had told him at the very beginning I would be traveling every Friday for these tournaments. He gave me no other out. And so over 60% of the grade was going to be based on these quizzes on Fridays. And long story short, I had an amazing GPA, and he failed me. And so I was not allowed to graduate with all my friends, and I had to go back to figure out, how am I going to make this work? And so a lot of times you think about, how someone may have succeeded, and you hear about the successes in their lives. But if you really look at sort of where the fiber, where the character, where the strength, comes from, if I had enough time, I would tell you all the different struggles and challenges, that had come my way. But I was able to graduate. Finally, I was able to get into chiropractic college. And as I started my practice, I was led, and I believe today, God led me to these 5 mentors, and in this order. And as a result of studying under these amazing mentors, I wound up building, as you said, something extraordinary, something far beyond the goals that I had ever accomplished or thought about accomplishing in my own life. And so chiropractors actually started coming from everywhere to my practice to see what it was. what was interesting was I had never learned it to teach it to other doctors. I learned it to help the families of my community. And so they just came in and started looking around and asking my team what was going on, interviewing patients, and they wound up just becoming a nuisance, Jeff, in my practice, 10, 20 chiropractors a week coming to my practice. So one of my CAs one day said, you know what, Dr. CJ, I think you ought to should just take these chiropractors across the street to the hotel right down the way and maybe just teach them something. She didn't even call it a seminar. She was just like, I want to get them out of my office politely. So I did. And that was the very simple beginnings, of what became the largest international coaching program in the history of our great profession. But today, I am called Coach CJ because I really feel like more than just simply helping chiropractors growing these wonderful big practices that they do serving so many people, it really comes down to how they wind up building themselves and how they wind up becoming the person that can actually build a successful practice. So the coaching isn't simply just technique, and it's simply not just business, and it's not just simply marketing or team development. It's leadership skills, it's personal development. And the more that someone's willing to humble themselves and the more they're willing to grow and develop as an individual, I believe the business success always follows.
I couldn't agree more. Hey, Doc, now you say that if you don't have an accumulative constructive life in place, an accumulative destructive plan is the auto-fulfill. So explain that to people watching. This is really powerful.
Yeah, I just feel like in my own life as well, Jeff, is fear is something that's just always seemingly right around the corner, that we have doubt, worry, uncertainty. It is said that the average person within 3 minutes of waking every morning is already having feelings of anxiety or worry within 3 minutes. And that gives us a sense of sort of, well, what does the rest of the day leave for us? And so if we don't create an accumulatively positive plan in our lives, an accumulatively destructive plan is really just already there waiting. And it's sort of that half glass empty versus glass half full. It's often been said that, you plan your work and then work your plan. But if it's really not a positive plan and you haven't really planned it, then what happens is we go through a day and there's intrepidation, there's hesitation, there's worry, there's doubt. And I often like to think about it like the fibers of a rope. If you took, let's say, 3 or 4 different sheets of silk, and you rolled them together, and then you took a pair of scissors, Jeff, and you cut through it, it would cut through it effortlessly. It would be an easy way to cut through that silk. But if you took about the same diameter of rope and tried to cut through it with that same scissors, you would be there for a long time. Those fibers come together and they build something absolutely extraordinary in our lives. And so we can see then that these fibers, mind, body, spirit, mental, physical, spiritual, it's about relationships. It's about our money. It's about all of the things that make us a whole, strong individual. Well, when one fiber is toxic, when one fiber is out of balance, when one fiber is weakened, the entire rope is weakened and it can start to fray. But in the same way, Jeff, which is what I'm so excited about, and I've watched it and lived it in my own lives, is that when we can take a fiber of that rope that maybe has weakened for whatever reasons, maybe we have a loss of somebody in our life, or we've just allowed a certain part of our life to just go into the gutter, mentally, physically, financially, or otherwise, but to be able to come back from that, to strengthen that fiber, to get that fiber back into normal balance, healthy and strong, strengthens that whole rope again. And if that happens to be a jump rope, we understand that that's not only a strong rope, but it's also flexible and it can move at high speeds and it can be hit against stone. It can be hit against concrete. It can be hit against wood floors over and over again, hundreds and thousands of times, and still be strong and still be able to continue doing, what it does. And so for me, I've always felt like if we are wanting to do something big, something special, something important, something meaningful in our lives, we've got to be careful about making sure that we've got a positive, accumulative plan in our lives so that we are fit, that we do not let our core just simply get weak. And we never wake up, Jeff, in one night going that next morning, oh, there it was. I just got a weak core, or I just got a hugely toxic mind thought process, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. And that's why a plan is so, an accumulatively positive plan is so important, because we can't really see our degradation hour by hour and day by day. It just seems to then be over time, wow, this part of my rope, this part of my life is really not good at all. And it might take some time to get it back. Having a process where you have deep breathing every day, you have reflective time, meditation, time to pray, time to read positive things into your life, positive relationships, that you are in the gym or something that's giving you the ability to strength train and work on your fitness, to stay flexible, to make sure that whatever skills that you do in your life, that you are the best, that you're working on those on a day-to-day basis. What's your plan? And does that play out every day? No day is perfect, no person's perfect. But with an accumulative positive plan, that is something that we can have a foundation for, building and sustaining a wonderful rope, if you will, with lots of great fibers that can have great durability for a great success, a great career, and potentially, great accomplishments.
That's awesome, CJ. Now, again, this is something I really want to hear you talk about. So you teach that optimal physical health, paradoxically, is based upon something not physical. So can you tell us what that is and how we can gain that in our lives? This is a huge thing for people.
Yeah, so you and I are in the same boat, and you and I just take the left side and the right side, and we're rowing together. And you and I have been doing that for over 20 years. And what you and I know is that growing up as young boys and young girls all over the world, what we learned was if we get sick, we wind up going to a doctor, and the doctor winds up prescribing a medicine in almost every case. And so what happens, whether we know it or not, is our belief system gets cemented into the thought process that we need something chemical, that we need something physical from outside our body to be put inside our body so that the sickness then can be eliminated and that we can be well again. And that all happens not necessarily because somebody taught it that way. It's because over and over again, from being infants and toddlers and school-age students, when we're sick, we go to the doctor and we get a medicine and we put it in our body. And all of that is the physical problem paradigm. It's also called the outside-in paradigm. And that's the thought process that I can only get well from outside in, somebody providing me a medicine, whether it's over the counter or a prescription medicine is irrelevant. It's all still something that says, I need something physical in order to solve a physical problem, an infection. I take anti-inflammatories, spasm, I take muscle relaxers, and I just go on down the line that if I have high blood pressure, I take a blood pressure medication. And so there's always that physical medicine, that physical solution for any physical problem that I'm having. The world got taught that. But what I realized early in my development, early in my own study and revelation about really how the body truly works and how God made us to be well all the time, it turns out that there's a non-physical, if you will, element that rules the physical element. And the way that it's been designed is that our brains send signals. These are called mental impulses or electrical mental signals that flow over the nerves and only flow over the nerves. And it turns out that we have 70 trillion cells in our body, and that the nerve system goes to all 70 trillion cells. That in itself is just mind-blowing. So the brain is sending these signals, millions of them every second, down the spinal cord, out the nerves to every cell, tissue, organ in the body. And what's interesting about these signals is they are fully responsible for all healing that has ever happened in human history. And it's never happened any other way. But the way we got taught was we would need to take medicine from the outside. But what if it turns out that these signals flowing over the nerve system, what if they get interrupted? which would be no different than, let's say, somebody gets a kink in their hose, Jeff, and that hose was to go to the garden to help feed the flowers and the plants. Well, there's some kink in the hose. There's no problem with the water. There's plenty of water to come, but somehow it's not getting through the hose. Well, then what happens is the flowers wilt and the plants wilt as a result of that. What if some way these signals were interrupted or could be interrupted? If they were interfered with and they weren't able to get to the cells and tissues that they are supposed to supply, that they are supposed to literally lead to build the chemistry that creates healing. Well, it turns out that's true. And September 18th, 1895 is one of the greatest days in human history. That was the day that chiropractic became a profession and that D.D. Palmer released this new mentality onto the planet, which is, no, the body doesn't heal from outside in. The body heals from above down, from the brain down the spinal cord, and inside out, from the nerve system to every cell, tissue, and organ in the body. But stress attacks the nerve system first. And if there's one thing anybody's walking away from a healing perspective today, it should be that. Jeff, you and I know we cannot eliminate stress, but we can prevent the effects of it. Because if stress attacks the nerve system first, and the nerve system is what's carrying these signals for all healing, repair, and metabolism, we ought to have our nerve system checked on a regular basis. And that is what I have been doing since I was 10 years old. So for 50 plus years, that is what I have been doing on a weekly basis, getting my power checked so that my nerve system can flow at 100%, so that I'm truly healthy and well. It turns out that virtually every pharmacy in the world looks at the human body, looks at what the chemistries are that your own body makes, and tries to mimic it with a medicine. They try to match what the body already makes. So we don't need outside medicine in most cases. What we need is the signals that actually create the chemistry that allows the function that we are to have from an early age, from before even birth, on into the longest standing life, healthy life that we could possibly have. It turns out that actually healing comes from the inside out, and it's something everyone should get checked. Everyone should actually go and see a chiropractor and have your spine, your posture, your nerve system properly evaluated to see just simply how it is flowing, how your nerve system is operating, how those signals are going to every cell, tissue, organ in your body. And you might be massively surprised that something that's been bothering you for weeks, months, and years, and you just haven't been able to figure it out, gets solved from the inside out.
Yeah, that's an awesome story, Sidney, because I don't know if I told you this story about me, but when you got into saying that you had kind of a personal experience which got you into chiropractic, well, when I was 4 years old, I had a severe case of croup, and that actually was going to pneumonia. And I was in the hospital. This is back in 1968. So again, technology wasn't great back then, right? So I was in the hospital for this for 2 weeks. I remember as a 4-year-old in this bed that had this plastic tent over my head. They put ice behind it to keep the air moist to try and help me breathe. I was getting worse. And so my mother thought, well, I'm going to die. I was coughing nonstop, getting worse. Doctors couldn't do anything for me. So a friend of hers worked for a chiropractor. She begged my mom, please take Jeff to see my chiropractor. He's like, well, he doesn't have back pain. He's got croup and pneumonia. So no, just take him. So she took me against my dad's wishes, 3 visits in a row, CJ, the croup and pneumonia went away. Wow. Literally, because I had some impingement, upper thoracic in my upper part of my back. That was impinging the nerve supply to the lungs. That's what caused it. So, I mean, that was my personal story, which made me want to become a chiropractor because medicine almost killed me. I knew I wanted to be a doctor, but I wasn't going to be in medicine. And so I see that so much with chiropractors where they had a personal experience, a lot of them where they had an injury, medicine couldn't help them, went to a chiropractor reluctantly, and that made them want to become a chiropractor. So it's pretty awesome to see how that body, just as you mentioned, like very eloquently, again, the body needs no help to heal, it just needs no interference, right? And that's what I know you said that over the years as well. That's one of the greatest lines, I think, in healing is that. So last thing I want to get into, CJ, again, you've helped build over 1,000 practices to collecting over $1 million a year. And it's all based on one belief that you say. So can you please share that belief system and how that can bless us in our lives today?
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. What a blessing that is for everyone that just heard it. And hopefully that gives hope to someone right now that's hurting. that there is another option. There is a choice. You know, even though we know DC stands for Doctor of Chiropractic, I want you to know that it really doesn't focus on condition. We're not doctors of condition. We're doctors of cause. That's what DC really means, that we find the cause of what is causing those conditions in your life. But back to your question, you know, I did build a practice of well over $1 million a year. And, you know, people in our profession know about that and wanted to reproduce that. And what I've always said is, you know, Jeff, it's not really at all about how much you're earning. It's what you're willing to serve. You know, it's how many people are you willing to help reach their goals, you know, and a chiropractor doesn't make any money short of putting their hands on men, women, and children to help them achieve their ultimate goals. So if you want to earn $1 million a year, you need to be the type of person that provides $1 million of healing. And that's where that all comes from. And so really that one belief system is this, that we attract into our lives, Jeff, our most dominant thoughts. And so the question then becomes, well, what are your most dominant thoughts? And is it somewhat just random? Do I find myself often distracted? Do I allow anyone or anything to kind of enter into the garden of my mind? And so there's a lot of moving parts and I never really feel sure-footed. I feel shallow and wide rather than narrow and deep. And what is it that you think about most? I say to chiropractors that want to consider earning over $1 million a year, I say, well, do you understand that that's $20,000 visits? That's 20,000 adjustments in a year, assuming that it's $50 a visit, which is where the average chiropractor is today. You know, are you the kind of person that's ready to do that? That's 1,700 adjustments a month. That's 425 adjustments per week. Are you that person? Do you have that much love? Do you have that much energy? Do you have that much drive? Do you have that much belief? Do you have the vision and the goals, you know, to accomplish that? And so I spend some time right there with every new client that I ever serve to get their mind right, to see, well, does that really even compute? Because once you understand the work that needs to go in order to accomplish $1 million a year, are you that person? Are you ready to put in that work? And if not, well, then let's not talk about $1 million. Let's not fool ourselves. Let's create a different goal. Let's find out what it is that you would be able to do. But so many times, what I realized, Jeff, is that it's a battlefield. That's what the mind is. Joyce Meyer wrote a whole book on the battlefield of the mind. And that's what I see over and over again. Not just chiropractors, but anybody that I've coached and consulted over this last 30 years is a battlefield of the mind. There's so many people and so many entities wanting to get your attention that there are multiple points of focus at any given point in your life, in your mind. And that's hard to figure out how I can actually move in one solid direction if I have a lot of interests and I have a lot of different thoughts and I have a lot of different concerns and issues and worries. And so training your brain to have dominant thoughts that serve you is not lucky. That's not new, but it also doesn't come naturally. And that's what I've learned, is that you don't just wind up here. You arrive there because it's intentional. And you decided, you know what, I'm going to actually create a scenario in my life, and particularly in my thought process, where I am half glass full, where I am actually thinking about what I want to attract. Who do I want to serve? What goals do I want to accomplish? And I have a way of bringing that into my life where all the things that happen on a given day feed my most dominant thoughts, as opposed to replacing my most dominant thoughts. And now I have thoughts of fear, worry, indecision, concern, uncertainty, etc. This is the plight, right? Either every day that we're living, we're actually building our most dominant thoughts and fueling our most dominant thoughts, or we're covering them over and we're pushing them aside and they're back on a shelf for a little while because we're going to worry about this and we're going to be concerned about that and distracted by this. And another day goes by and it was more of, I did do some good work, don't get me wrong, but much of it was in the midst of worry, indecision, hesitation, distraction. And that's not how you build great success. That's certainly not how you build great wealth. And so in my coaching program, the Accelerate Coaching Program, what has been so cool, having coached now over 16,000 teams in 20 different countries, speaking 12 different languages, I'm really clear that it's not a cultural thing. It's not a language thing. It's a human thing. And that any chiropractor anywhere can do this. And as you said, thank you, over 1,000 practices have now reached over $1 million a year because they understood the work. They understood the mission. They understood the purpose, the drive, and then most of all, understood the most dominant thoughts will be what we attract. And so we need to have that as a sanctuary. We need to pay more attention to that because it's true both ways, right? If our most dominant thoughts, Jeff, are really unproductive and more toxic, well, then that's what we're attracting into our lives. And that has been true for generations and centuries. And it's just that I like to bring it to our culture today. I like to bring it to our profession today and to each chiropractor and each teammate, to have them make sure every day they wake up, they're doing the rituals of breathing and meditating and praying and looking at positive imagery and positive conversations, positive videos, things that they're putting into their body and into their mind that's feeding positive dominant thoughts. And if someone can learn to do that, they're the next millionaire, whether they're chiropractors or not. They will have earned the right to be able to have that kind of success and prosperity in their lives.
That's awesome. Now, I thought that was the last question, but I want to throw one more in there, Dr. CJ. So explain to people listening, because I think this is a huge thing for anybody, chiropractor, business owner, about mentors in their life, because I've had multiple mentors in my life. That is 100% the key to my success over my 30-year career.
Yes, sir.
You've had mentors. You've been one of my mentors, I'm happy to say. So just explain to the people watching and listening to this, just the power of having a mentor that's kind of been where you are right now, has been where you are now. And so you can actually follow that path and actually get there quicker, because now there's a roadmap they can lay out for you. Instead of you trying to figure it out on your own, oh my gosh, I probably saved 20, 30 years of mistakes by having powerful mentors in my life like you. Just kind of touch on that real quick as we close here, Doc.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I never thought that I would wind up being a coach. That wasn't really my long goal. It was just serving people and helping sick people get well and stay well. But God had another plan. And as he began bringing people into my practice, it just became something that I felt like I needed to really help them do what it was that I was able and blessed to be able to do. But along the way, as I mentioned, I had 5 mentors. One of them put it this way, Jeff, and I just thought it was fascinating. He said, "You understand, CJ, that if you read a book, and let's say that you're not a fast reader, let's say it takes you, a week to read this book, and some might read it in 3 hours on a day, but let's say it takes you a week. Do you understand that someone's 20 or 30 years on this planet of making mistakes, trial and error, and then having honed it and chiseled it and figured it out, and then wrote a 150, 200-page book, that within a week, you could have gleaned what it took that person 20 or 30 years to learn, to exceed, to triumph. And what happens when you read your second book and your 10th and your 100th book? And he gave me a goal to read 500 books. Well, that's insane, right? I mean, when you first hear it, it's just too much, right? It was like thinking of reading an entire library. But once you get through the first one and then the 5th and the 10th one, suddenly reading 20 or 30 or 40 books doesn't seem outlandish. And when you get to your first 100, then the idea of maybe reading 200 just isn't seemingly that ridiculous anymore. But it's literally exactly what you just said. If I've read 10 books and these people spent 30 years honing what it was and making the mistakes as well as the breakthroughs in that particular area, how many hundreds, potentially thousands of years of knowledge am I compressing into my present time consciousness? And the same is true whether it's a book, because I don't believe a book is a mentor, but it's a fantastic way of bringing knowledge and awareness in, but eventually coming alongside someone who maybe has already read those books or has actually written those books, but you're now working directly with that mentor, I totally agree with you. It's a way to fast track what you're doing. It's a way to, I believe John Maxwell said it best, is to fail forward fast. And so we can actually move through things that would take somebody else 10 years to go through. I just went through those in 3 or 4 months. And so now I'm already where that person would have been in their 11th year. I'm there in my 4th month. And that's what happened for me, you know? And so nothing's perfect. There were ups and downs on the way up, but it certainly meant to me that the mentors were able to flatten the downs. In other words, they weren't as steep and they weren't as long lasting, which is huge. If you had no other sense of like, what does a mentor do? Because I've literally saved millions. Forget about how much I've earned. I've saved millions of dollars by being with mentors who prevented me from going further down a hole or staying in the same negative place longer. That would have cost me more than I can say today. And then when I think about on the flip side of that, the keys, the strategies, the principles, the success laws that they were to give me in the right order at the right time, just catapulted my success, which again, if I tried to figure that out on my own, maybe I would never figure it out in an entire career, or it would have taken me 20 or 30 years to figure that out. I was fortunate enough to cram that and compress it into 2 years and wound up building something much, 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 much bigger than I could have ever imagined. I thank God, first and foremost, for my life and everything in my life. And I thank him for leading me to those mentors. And I thank those mentors, and I thank them. You know, every month goes by, they know how much I love and appreciate them. And I've always wished, Jeff, that I could just simply be as good, as positive, as high an integrity mentor as that they were to me, that I could be to others, and to honor that first chiropractor, because I realize today I still can't do enough to give back to chiropractic for what chiropractic has given me. And through your story, I know you feel the same way about what chiropractic personally, you know, did for you.
Yeah, and as we know too, CJ, we've talked about this before too, and you know, you look at the top in any field. You look at Michael Jordan, look at Wayne Gretzky. I mean, you look at the Tiger Woods. They've all got coaches. You know, so you know, knowing, having that ability to know what you don't know, and being humble enough about that to say, you know what, I know there's somebody out there that probably knows what I don't know, so let me go to them. Let me hire them. Let them be my coach. And that's a really good ability to have. So anybody watching this, I mean, don't think that you know it all. That was something I was blessed to learn at a very young age, that, hey, I know what I don't know. I know there's people that are way more successful than me. So let me go and hire them and have them be my coach, my mentor. And I think you've done a phenomenal job of that. So you've got a great reputation. Again, I'm blessed to call you my friend for all these years. And so last thing is, for people that want to get more information and about how they can actually hire you to be their coach, what's the best website? How do they communicate with you to get that information?
Sure. I would just go to cjmertz.com and there they can find the information to get even a practice evaluation with me or my team, and find out what their issues and challenges are. And no matter what they are, no matter how bad things are, I'm telling you, there is hope and there is possibility. And going to cjmertz.com is the first place to start that. We also have a seminar that's happening April 30th and May 1st. Not only can they attend it here in Austin, and there's information right there at cjmertz.com about the Total Skills Integration Seminar, it's also something, just simply because of COVID, we've honored that to make it virtual, so that if you wanted to be with me and experience the seminar, but perhaps not have to travel to do it, you can also register virtually and get a real wonderful deep dive with me, you know, just really get dipped and bathed in our entire process through a seminar before even necessarily hiring me and my team as a coach. And I would be honored and privileged to help anyone that reaches out to us.
Great. Well, CJ, thanks a lot for your time. Love you, man. Appreciate you being my brother, my friend, and look forward to seeing you and your family again soon.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Okay, so for those of you that, again, in closing here, if you want to, if you're a chiropractor, business owner, and you're looking for a mentor, I cannot recommend Dr. CJ, you know, any more than that. I mean, he is phenomenal. He's helped me in my career. I know hundreds of doctors and people he's actually helped over my lifetime as well. So please reach out to cjmertz.com. There's information there for you. And again, I promise you will not be disappointed. And if you're looking for a great mentor, he's the one. So thanks for watching this edition of Best of the Best, and we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.